When I first developed an interest in jazz, I didn't have a clue what to practice to become a good improviser. It was only when I started taking lessons with some local jazz musicians and when I got myself some of those legendary Jamie Aebersold books that I began to understand what I had to do. 15 years and more than 10,000 practice hours later, I've learned a lot about the most effective ways to become a good improviser. And in this video, I want to share with you a 5-step system that I developed based on everything I know. In today's world, you find so much information on how to practice jazz, but often it's incomplete and misses important points. Or it's colored by misguided beliefs, like for example that you shouldn't transcribe your heroes because you will end up sounding like a copy of them. Statements like this are simply not true. After watching this video, you will have a clear step-by-step approach to actually become a better improviser. Imagine a child learning their native language. How do they do it? By repeating after their parents, copying what they're saying and how they say it. Very much in the same way, the 5-step system that I want to show you here focuses on copying your favorite players and learning from them. But just as a child experiments with what they've learned, making up new words, trying different ways of using them, we don't only copy. We use what we've learned to develop our own unique way of playing. The 5 steps are transcribe, analyze, practice, vary, and apply. So the first step is transcribing. We need to find something to work with, something to learn from. I would recommend that you choose a solo of one of your favorite players over a tune you know already. So for example over a blues or a jazz standard you've played in the past. Listen for one phrase that catches your ear, that you would be excited to learn. As soon as you find something that resonates with you, put it on repeat and try to play it on your instrument. As an example for this video, I will use a great real classic bebop line Joe Henderson played over his solo on Isotope. I did a full analysis of his first chorus on Isotope in another video. Sounds great, right? Make sure to not choose something too long or too complicated in the beginning. This will make the next steps much easier. So after transcribing the phrase, the next step is to understand what's going on, to analyze the phrase. We have the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th in the beginning, followed by a 2-note approach, E and G. This is the 6th and the root of the chord to the 7th. And then we finished the line with the 5th. By the way, if you would like to get the accompanying PDF to this video, you can get access to it by becoming a member of my channel for just €1 a month. Just click on join right below this video. Now that we've transcribed the phrase and we understand what's going on, we can start practicing. One important tip: commit the phrase to your memory as quickly as possible, so you don't rely on sheet music for too long. And try to copy the way the musician you transcribed the phrase from actually played it. For example, pay attention to which notes are slurred, which notes pop out the most, so are accentuated, which notes are played a little bit softer, etc. You might have heard that you should always practice everything in all 12 keys. Why this might be great advice for advanced players, it can feel overwhelming if you're just starting out. If you're a beginning improviser, I would recommend that you practice the phrase at least in 3 different keys. Just have a look at the tunes you've practiced so far and decide which keys you want to practice the phrase in based on those. But how do you actually transpose a phrase to other keys the best? Let's have a look. Let's say we want to transpose the phrase to C7. We know from the analysis before that the phrase starts on the 3rd. So the 3rd of C7 would be E. Then it's followed by the 5th, which would be G, the 7th, which would be B flat, and the 9th in C7 would be D. Afterwards, we have a 2-note approach to the 7th with the 6th and the root. So the 6th of C7 would be A. Then we have the root C going to the 7th, which would be again B flat, and the phrase ends on the 5th, which would be G. So as you can see, thinking in scale degrees is really key here. If you can, try to transpose the phrase to other keys in your head. But if this proves difficult, writing it out works as well. So let's say we've practiced the phrase maybe in 12 keys, maybe in 3 if you're a beginning improviser. What's next? Many players would just stop here. They would transcribe a phrase, maybe analyze it, and then practice it in 12 keys. That's it. But what would be the result of this? If I would stop here, I would be only able to copy and paste the phrase exactly as Joe Henderson played it. This would be really unoriginal and frankly unartistic. There are many stories of jazz greats calling out younger musicians because they simply copied their licks. Joe Henderson himself expressed once in an interview that he was really displeased how younger saxophone players would simply copy his stuff. So this is something to be really cautious about. While it's okay to sound similar to someone else, especially as you're developing, it's important not to become a copycat, which is exactly why the next step is so important. The key here is variation, which will bring your own creativity to light. There are many different ways to vary a phrase and make it your own. I want to show you 3 common variation techniques that composers have used for centuries. The first one is melodic variation. You can come up with endless melodic variations of this one phrase. I could, for example, say I keep the first 4 notes the same, so we have B, D, F, and A as 16th notes, and then we change up a little bit the melody afterwards. So we continue with E, but then go down to D, then we have G, F, and D. It's pretty much the same notes as we have in the original, just a little bit of a different mix and a little bit of a longer phrase. Let's see how this sounds. The second variation technique is called rhythmic variation. Let's say we keep the notes exactly the same but change up the rhythm a little bit. So let's say we start with 8th notes instead of 16th notes. So we play the same notes B, D, F, and A, but this time as 8th notes. And then we change the rhythm of the next few notes a little bit. We have E, G, and F, but we play them now as 8th note triplets, and then we end the phrase on D as a quarter note. Let's see how this sounds. The third variation technique I want to show you is called inversion. So we could, for example, invert the order of the first 4 16th notes. So this would mean we would start with A, then play F, D, and B, still always 16th notes. I think this should sound just as nice as the original. And then we adjust the other notes a little bit so they fit this phrase better. Let's see how this sounds. There are many more ways to vary this phrase, but with the 3 variation techniques I just showed you, melodic variation, rhythmic variation, and inversion, you can already come up with a huge number of different versions of this phrase that are all your own. How should you practice this in your own practice session? As a first step, take a sheet of music paper and write down at least 10 variations of the phrase you're practicing. Then later try coming up with variations of this phrase on the spot, playing it right away on your instrument. Remember, this is where your own creativity comes to shine, and this is the step that makes sure you won't end up a copycat. Let's quickly recap the steps so far. And by the way, if you like this video, make sure to give a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos like this. And if you would like the PDF for this video, you can sign up as a channel member just below. We started by transcribing a line from one of our favorite players that really stood out for us. Then we analyzed exactly what's happening there. After that, we practiced the phrase in at least 3 different keys. And then we spent some time varying the phrase in as many ways as we could think of. There's just one more step left, applying what we've learned so it actually shows up in our solos. Now, one important piece of wisdom I picked up a while ago: don't stress yourself too much about applying everything you've practiced to your actual solos. It usually takes some time before something new that you've practiced shows up in your solos. And sometimes it never shows up directly. But that's okay, because it still informs your playing in ways that might not be directly visible. I remember being really worried that I practiced the wrong way because something didn't show up directly in my solos. But I know by now that this is not a wise way to look at it. That said, of course we want to maximize the chance that something we practice also shows up in our solos. And for that we need to practice applying the phrase to actual tunes. Let's take a blues in C and apply the Joe Henderson phrase. First we find all the spots we can use the phrase in. So this would be everywhere we have a dominant chord here. So we have here C7, then we can use it over F7, again over C7, then over G7, and at the very end over C7 again. Now we have to transpose the phrase from G7 to C7. So we know that we start the phrase on the third, which would be for C7E, then we have the fifth, the seventh, and the ninth. All those are 16th notes. And then we continue with the sixth, which would be A, go to the 1, which would be C, and continue with the 7, which would be B flat, and the fifth G. Now we go to the next chord, F7. We start again with the third, and then fifth, seventh, which is E flat, and ninth, which would be G. Those are again our 16th notes. Then we go to the sixth, which would be D, the root F, and we continue with the seventh, which would be E flat, and finish with the fifth C. Okay, in C7 we just write the same phrase again. And now over G7, it's actually the same key as the original phrase, so we can just copy it from there. And then we have once more C7. And now we have the blues form, and we inserted everywhere where we can the phrase over the dominant chords. Now you can take your instrument, put on a play along, and practice playing the phrase only in the spots it really fits. After a while, when you feel comfortable, you can also start varying the phrase just in the way we practiced before. As a next step, you can start improvising in between the spots where you play the phrase. Those are the most important steps for application. I would also recommend that you practice slow improvisation without a play-along and focus on connecting the phrase to longer lines. And remember, variations are always allowed. So for applying the phrase, first we insert it into a tune wherever it fits, then we start improvising around those spots, and finally we practice connecting the phrase to the lines we play around it. And ideally, we don't only apply the phrase to one tune, but to 2 to 3 different tunes. And if you really want to get the most out of this process, I would encourage you to write down a whole chorus or two that focuses on applying this phrase in various forms. So there you have it, the 5-step system that actually will help you to become a better improviser. Probably the greatest thing about this approach is that you learn directly from the source, from the masters of the craft. But you don't only copy, you change up the stuff you learn and make it your own unique thing. Next to this approach, it's important to learn concepts that you can apply to your solos. If you're interested, I recently did a video on tritone substitutions, probably one of the hippest soloing techniques out there, and you can find the video here. Thanks for your support, leave me your questions down in the comments, and see you next time.